Welcome. It is no accident that you have found your way to the Release the Genie podcast. What would you do with 3 wishes? And what if you discovered that you are in fact that very genie that could grant them? Well, join us now as we discover who our next genie is as we listen in and learn the stories of triumph, inspiration, and passion with some very special guests. And now, without further delay, your host of the Release the Genie podcast, Mr. Paul Rogers.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're joining from. Today, I have at this time the very talented and wonderful Saliha Wazirzada.
Yes, Wazirzada.
You
You're not the only one.
Do you know, before we did this, we practiced. I practiced because Saliha doesn't need to practice her own name. I did. So thank you for the elocution lesson straight off the bat, because they are obviously needed. So let me just tell you a little bit about my wonderful guest today. She's a soul coach, and through self-love to overcome fear, self-doubt, and trauma. Not only is that, as she hosts a wonderful podcast, which I have been a guest on, The Untold Story Told. And if you haven't seen it already, you need to check it out. It is awesome. As well as that, she is an award-winning filmmaker with a master's in media arts and production. So the very talented Genie today, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here, Paul. I've been looking forward to being on the show. I've been following you. I've been looking at all your posts and updates, and it's wonderful to finally be here and embody being the genie. So it's so magical.
Well, it's always wonderful to have fantastic guests like yourself being the genie. And I know that this next 20 minutes, 30 minutes is going to be something which is going to be absolutely magical. So let's start it off a bit. And can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Well, Paul, currently I am podcasting, and I'm a soul coach who's also in training. So I'm continuously working at becoming the best I can in that. So at the same time, I'm a mother of 2. I've got a 6-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son. I live in Australia, and I think where I am today, I'm just transforming, evolving, and I'm letting it all in. So that's how I am, and I'm a person who's very connected within and continues to work at that. So that's the kind of person I am.
We were talking before the show about flow and how you are sort of feeling that flow at the moment.
Yes. That I would say is because I, for a long time in my life, I did feel the stagnation of it, like when things were not happening. And a lot of it was in my head. A lot of it was a dream. And so since I have experienced a long time in my life where I felt the self-sabotage and the doubting me or not being able to see the hope or the light kind of person, today where I stand as in September 2020, I would say I'm literally feeling the flow because I felt the opposite of it.
That is amazing. And I love the journey to get there. It's very, very authentic and very real. So that's wonderful. Let me ask you, what was your release the genie moment, your aha moment? Tell us about that part of your journey.
Yes, I would say all my life I've had little moments where I did reach up to this moment, which I will tell you about. Like, I think everything around you builds you up to this very moment where that release is a full release, as a genie release moment. So coming to that very moment that happened, which was recently, about 3 years ago. I was just doing the normal life, being a mom, having dreams of one day I'll make my film, and I was trying to write a script, which I couldn't. So it was like a constant, like, when will I do this? And as the new mom, you're so much into the bringing up the children part and just thinking everything that you will do one day will happen one day. So it becomes like, will it ever happen? So for me in particular, what it was that I really wanted to become the filmmaker that I was before I had my children. So ever since I had my children, I was writing a script for a short film, which is a beautiful idea, which was very heart connected. And it was a lot to do with emotions. It was about PTSD. It was about a parallel story of a person who's in Afghanistan, a little girl who's in Afghanistan, and a man who's a drone operator in America, and how the parallel stories come together. And it was about peace, about understanding each other at an emotional level. So of course, it was so close to my heart, but what I couldn't do was bring it on paper. So it was like I felt like I was stuck in here, and every time I sat down to write, I would freeze. I would open up the fridge or sit down with my children like long hours just watching cartoons and thinking, yeah, I should get that pen. I should maybe type, maybe do it on the iPad, maybe just do it on my phone, maybe just talk it, but it was not happening. It was not coming out. And I realized a big part of it was because I self-sabotaged myself into thinking I cannot do this. Because I thought maybe I'll be too successful or I'll be a failure. And because I had had that experience, that run where I had been good with the whole thing I'd been on the news, I had had a radio program and whatnot. So I'd experienced the limelight. So for me, having that stagnation period made me feel like, can I do it again? So procrastination, self-doubt. It just, for 5 years, during the time I had my 2 kids, I wasn't able to get back into what I wanted to do. And so there was a moment that took place, which was a traumatic time in my life, where this one moment shook me to the core. It made me question who I am, who are the people around me, what is my relationship with my children really. And that kind of a thing that happened to me, that one moment, made me review everything that I was doing which was not for me, which was not self-loving, which was not for my betterment or serving me. So I came into this down period where I was like, who am I? I felt so broken within. And then somebody told me about meditation, and I started meditating. And ever since then, it has been a life-opening journey where I got to connect with myself within, and that's how it started.
That is amazing, and you've hit on so many sort of familiar points, which I know people watching are being, yeah, that's me, that's where I am. And the fact you've been able to sort of push through and break out the other side is amazing. So kudos to you for sticking with it, because 5 years in some people's lives they think is an eternity, but you got back there. So well done. So tell me, given all this, you must have some sort of wonderful inspiring quote or mantra you live by. So let us in on that little secret.
Yeah, so I during my journey, I really got into Abraham Hicks and their readings and their talks. And I used to have these headphones on. So whatever I was doing, I used to listen to whatever was being said. I'm more of a listener. I'm more of a learning from videos and audio kind of a person. So I got into them, and I also got their books eventually. And there's one line I would say is that really works for me. It's called I'm getting ready to be ready to be ready. And that just goes on, to be ready to be ready. And I stuck by it. And what it made me feel was where I was like whatever's happening with you, even though it feels like you're nowhere, you're getting ready for the next step and the next step. And so that was kind of like a flow feeling, even though I was at a stage of feeling stagnant. So just saying that like an affirmation of some sort made me feel like, yeah, even though it feels like I'm just sitting with my kids or just making porridge or something, I will get there. My vision is visualized, and I can feel it more than anything. So yeah.
That is wonderful. That quote has so much motion in it that you can't help but sort of just let go and be swept away in it. It's and that's what I'm sort of hearing of your willingness to actually let go at some point and actually just ride with it.
Yes. And there's one more, which is by Teal Swan, who's a spiritual teacher. And the one that she says a lot is, we're all victims of victims. So it's so interesting, because anything I can go back into life where either somebody did something or I did something, it just brings you to a place where it makes you feel like, let's just think whoever did wrong by you, which is a normal thing that a human goes through, like, oh, they didn't do right by me, or I didn't do right by them. If you think we all have been through certain things to make who we are, so it helps you to realize that it wasn't about you, it was about them. So if you reverse it, then it's about you. Then what do you need to do about you first, right? You need to work within yourself to fix yourself, fix as in look at yourself in a way where you're looking at yourself and saying, do I like these things about me? If I don't like them, how do I go on about it? And the best thing, Paul, is to just go compassionately. And for me, that worked. For me, quotes that went like, stop doing this, don't do this, never ever worked for me, because it wasn't talking to my heart. It wasn't talking to me. It felt like a command, you know, how some people go like, oh, don't feel depressed, don't be sad. So for me, words which went like, try to understand the other side and your side, and you are just a non-physical you who is loved by source, as they say in Abraham Hicks talks. Like you're internally fixed, you're internally healed, you're already in your highest form. You are love. This is how you came to this world. So if you are this pure and beautiful form of love, energy, frequency, then everything around you is just you as an observer looking at it. So that's what I did. I switched into observer mode, and that was a different world. And all these quotes were so helpful. Yeah.
That is wonderful. And you're absolutely right. Being able to work on yourself to start with, and it's not a selfish thing, because you can only really, really help other people if you are actually grounded and good yourself. No, that's really, really powering stuff. I love it. I'm feeling motivated as we speak. So this is going to be quite a good thing. And I know there's going to be a whole load of motivation that comes out of this. What was one of the setbacks you had, or the moments which sort of really rocketed you up into where you are now?
Well, ever since I was a teenager, I think in terms of relationships, I have been going through really like eye-opening sort of sequences and experiences that have made me come really close to everything pretty much that people talk about. Like I will be open enough to say that there was a time that I did want to commit suicide, but they were all thoughts. What I understood is that this example was just to say that I have come close to many, many emotional, sensitive sort of spaces in my life, and they have only made me realize how it feels to be in somebody else's shoes, of somebody who's going through it. And also it's made me realize that in the end, it's all your thoughts. Whatever you picture yourself as, you know, I mean, back when I had these kind of thoughts, let's just talk about the suicide thing. It was, I had a roof on top of my head. I had food, I had parents, I had friends, I had family, but it was my thoughts that were making me feel down and low. So it became very clear to me around my life that these kind of things that teach you that your thoughts make you is really, really true. And I think if you have experienced the opposite of happiness, opposite of having lots of abundance, like with such as coming from lack or something, you realize that most of it is to do with your thoughts, and you're able to appreciate what you don't have when you do have it. And I think what happens when you live long enough, you get to see so many different versions of you in different circumstances that you're able to finally come to this place where you're like, yeah, I'm evolving. Maybe I'm not where I am today, and I'm ready for change, and I'm ready to go wherever it takes me. It's not that I'm going to stop growing, but it gives you a little bit of a view, like an aerial view or like an observer view, where you're able to see that whatever I did go through was to take me to where I am today. So all of it is me. My dark is me. Those really bad thoughts is me, So you feel like this place where you're like, aha. So I can be with all of that and still be like I want to grow, even though I am getting old. So it's a lovely space. I think if you realize your self-worth within that day, everything changes, and then everything comes into, scope.
That's wonderful, because you've had obviously a whole spectrum of thoughts, and they are just thoughts, and they're powerful. But the judgment you have or haven't placed on it is really key. Of, do you want to go down that rabbit hole type thing? Mm-hmm. So as a soul coach, that is invaluable to you and being able to help other people.
Yeah, my thing has always been like being there for others. I've always, as a friend, been there for people. And because of my intuitiveness, people tend to just naturally, the friends that I've had, lucky to have, the people who have been, sort of come into my life, like I feel like they just come into my life. And now where I am, this is how I say it. And when they come into my life, I feel like they need something from me, which they feel they cannot find in many around them. And then this is where they stop. And this is where they're able to say, without having to use many words, I'm able to figure out what is the inner calling or the inner feeling. Like, what is the soul feeling? Like, you could be going through a divorce. You could be going through an upset at work, right? People can come to you with that. But for me, it's like there has to be something very embedded within you, which you haven't loved, which you haven't taken care of, like you would with other friends and other family members and people. You haven't taken that time out for you. So that's where I come from. I feel like people need to know that loving yourself is just not about, those fancy things that people talk about. It's really going into the dark nights of the soul. And those are the struggles I did face. I did go through a lot of dark nights of the soul where I was sitting down and I had a lot of self-doubt. Like, even though I was meditating, I had moments where I was like, am I where I am? Because people around me were the same, and I was changing within. My face was the same, but I felt inside so different. So there was a stark difference between who I was and the people around me. So in the very beginning, it was like a reality thing. Like, I felt there's this whole, this thing happening within me, but around me, everything is the same. And then I was thinking, how they say that it will change if you keep thinking positive, that your surroundings and your reflection will change. So in the beginning, it was a big struggle holding up and just showing up for myself in joy and gratitude and saying that I will get there, and to have that positivity and give it to others at the same time. So yeah.
That is amazing. I mean, to us, I could sit and listen to this all day. It's wonderful. There's so much positive energy, and I know that everyone will be able to feel this radiating through the screen. So tell us, what are you working on at the moment in your business? So what are you up to right now?
So I'm podcasting while I am a soul coach. Soul coaching is what I really am developing into. It is a place where I'm working with a coach to become a coach. And currently I'm going to be starting a challenge on Instagram, where it's going to be like a free challenge just to get my, feet into the water, like just toes dipping, and also wanted to see who are the kind of people that I'm bringing to my space, where I can give them all that I have learned and all that I know for them to develop themselves for their self-growth. So I'm going to be starting like a challenge soon, and I'm working at that. I'm putting all these this little bundle, this beautiful loving package where people can then eventually tell themselves that I love you rather than wanting it from another person. And I do believe in relationships, and people tend to think that, oh, if you do self-love, it means that then you don't need another person. I really believe that if you start loving yourself, you'll find the right people who are there to push you, to support you, to be with you just the way you are, and it will be effortless and it will be beautiful. And that's where I want people to experience that, just a little bit of that. And the rest is their journey. Nobody can heal anyone. It's them coming in and saying, can you do it? And it's because of their energy that it works. So I want them to realize that there is someone out there who's telling them, just keep going, just keep going. And I like that way of doing it. So I'll be putting that up soon on Instagram.
That's really exciting. And wow. And anyone who wants to get into this and support Saliha, then that's where they need to go. So that's fine. Well, look, now we've come to the part of the show where I actually get to have my 3 wishes. So are you ready, Almighty Genie? Are you ready for this?
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
That's sort of, okay. So, right.
I'm ready.
Oh, that's it. No, you see,
Ready.
that's it.
Ready.
Positive. That's it. So, number 1, what was the best advice you've ever received in your life?
This will be funny because I have thought about this. And I can talk about many people who came through my life and said things, but my very early memories are songs from these Disney cartoons that I watched. And also some cartoons that I don't even know what that cartoon was, but the lyrics of the music always stayed with me because I'm very musically inclined, as I've learned through many events in my life. And the first one is from the Jungle Book. It's Bare Necessities of Life, and I love that whole song, and I wouldn't sing it here, but the words I go like, I want your audience to feel the genie, not the singer who's like a karaoke singer. The line that goes like, the bare necessities of life will come to you. Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. It means no worries in your strife. And then he goes like, I mean the bare necessities. See? I had to sing. I can't contain myself.
I think that's a bonus thing here. This is like the director's cut version with the singing bit. That's wonderful. And yeah, you've got it. And I'm not gonna get you to sing the whole lot. Maybe later. But later. Yeah, no, it's a very, sometimes these messages, and Disney's really good at this, of putting really good messages into a song or a cartoon. So and it's a feature length thing, so it's lovely.
Mm-hmm. And it really, till now, I tell my kids about it too, because everybody needs to realize that, that this is it. Like we need to stop thinking about, getting there and doing this and everything. And if I don't have this, I won't have happiness. I don't have this, I won't have happiness. This attachment of happiness to things, it happens at a very early age when you start looking at your grown-ups and saying like, oh, okay, this is how the world works. So all these belief systems start at a very young age. And I think music, song, all of this, dancing, I'm actually going to be incorporating that into my soul work as well. And I feel all of that is so important for you as a human being to release all of this clutter that we've cluttered up all our lives through our growing up and everything. We need to declutter, become our authentic selves. And I think becoming authentic is a big part of actually comes through song, dance, and music. I really believe that.
No, that's wonderful. And yeah, we even got a singy bit there, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm really happy on that. Let's move on to wish number 2. And this is always a good one. What advice would you give your younger self?
I visit my younger self a lot, just to let you know. It sounds a bit spooky, but I think
you're a genie on a show, and there's nothing spooky about this.
So I float to her every now and then, and I tell her things like that you are loved, that you do not need to hear that from another human being to make yourself feel that you are loved, and that you just are love. So go on, and your life is literally your oyster. And you can do whatever you want, but just remember, come from your heart space. And that's all you need. You don't need any other superpowers other than coming from that heart space within. You are an individual, and whatever comes from you will reflect others. And yeah, for me, it's always like I went towards helping others, but it was from a different stance. So I would tell her to go from that heart space and stick to herself, her needs first. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Really great advice. No, beautiful, beautiful. Well, look, I'm going to move on to wish number 3 now. So this is my final wish. Can you share one personal habit that attributes to your success?
Well, one of them is waking up at 6:30 a.m. in the morning, which is pretty early for me as a mom. So I do it for 20 days, and on day 21, something happens. One of my kids gets sick, or something happens where I'm not able to get up, but I don't get hard on myself. But my aim is to continue doing it. And when I do it, my meditation is in the morning. I set out my day in the morning. I don't have to worry about that, during the day, oh, because of my kids, I can't do this or that. The me time that I need for my exercise, for my stretching, for my just deep contemplation, or just writing gratitude that I do every day. So that's another thing. I write a gratitude diary every day. I meditate every day. And this whole morning thing is a new thing that I have reintroduced, because I knew when I did do it, it was so powerful. And I would advise anyone who's listening today that if you can wake up before anyone else wakes up in the morning, and just have those little moments of silence, or whatever makes you feel happy, if it's music, or if it's just sitting outside and waiting for the sun to come out, or just going for a walk, it just adds that little element to your day where you are setting out your day. It is true that how you start your day, it really ends up that day. I mean, that way. So do try it. Try it.
That's wonderful. I mean, I totally agree. Having you time, especially with little ones running around, who absorb all your time, is super important. So
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you now, because I love doing this. Is there a book which you have either been inspired by, or your go-to book? What let us in on that little secret.
Yeah. I've got a lot of audiobooks, and the book that I have, the actual book that I have with me these days that I'm reading, I would recommend that one. It is called, again, it's Abraham Hicks. It's called The Astonishing Power of Emotions. So it is magical. And everything that I ever thought about is pretty much stated out and saying, you are right. And this is how it actually works. Vibrations, frequency, going downstream, not going upstream. And it's wonderful. It's good for the soul. Do read it. If anybody has not yet, I'm pretty sure many people have come across that book. But for me, reading itself is a challenge that I've given myself, because I always just said to myself, you know how words become like spells? We're talking about spells because we're genies right now. And so I've stopped saying those things to myself, and I'm really taking the effort, even if it's 2 pages a day, reading it, even though I've got an audiobook app. I'm still reading at the same time, and it feels good. Just the smell of books, feeling books. And I feel like then the words are written in front of you, like somebody wrote them and they're printed and they're right in front of you. It feels so good. I love that book. And I can read it again and again, and it gives me these goosebumps, like every paragraph. Yeah.
That's amazing. If you haven't already seen it or read it, then by all accounts, I don't think I've heard a better recommendation for a book. That's wonderful. So this has been, amazing, but where can people get hold of you? Because anyone who's been inspired by what you're saying, where's the best place we can get hold of you?
Well, the best place would be Instagram, where I'm growing myself. And Instagram, what I have is the Instagram name is Untold Story Told, just to make it more harder for you guys. But just type in Untold Story Told as one word, and all my soul work, all my podcasts, all the updates are there. Even the link to my podcast is there. So anybody who wants to tune in into what's happening, they can come up there. I've only just started getting into LinkedIn, thanks to Paul Rogers, who's been an impressive person out there, who's told me it is possible, because I am doing it too. And I love this, watching him. And so I'm going to do the same. So I'm growing my LinkedIn, and hello LinkedIn tribe. I'm going to be there with you guys too. So you can find me on LinkedIn with my name, which is Saliha Wazirzada. And I'm pretty sure you can find it with whatever text you put down here. Yes. Yep.
No, we make sure we zero in on anything you said on that. But yes, that's wonderful to have, a foot in more than one tribe. So you're giving value to more and more people. Look, this has been an absolutely wonderful, magical experience. We've had the Jungle Book, we've had song, we've had everything. We had Abraham Hicks, we had you singing. This has been a very complete show, and I thank you so much for being today's Genie. And I will now let you float off into the sunset.
I'm actually going to float. I float on a daily basis. Nobody knows about it.
Well, look, if this has been inspiring to you, please get in touch with this lovely lady. Stay tuned for amazing guests just like the wonderful Salah, and we'll see you on the next show. Take care and go and find your Genie moment.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's been a pleasure. I am so grateful and so blessed. This is a magical moment. Thank you.
The magic came from you. I am just the signpost. But thank you very much, and good night, good evening, and good morning for wherever you are watching.
Well, that's a wrap. You have been listening to yet another episode of the Release the Genie podcast with host Paul Rogers. Be sure to follow Paul on the LinkedIn platform and learn more of Paul's resources at www.takeactionacademy.ca. And until next time, as always, be mindful and be sure to release your Genie. Thanks for listening.